Tom King, currently managing partner of Cross River Capital. Tom was founding partner of the U.S. Renewables Group. His wealth of experience includes completing $25 billion of equity and debt investments across 6 continents. Jean-Marc O'Brien has been director of Ardour Capital Investment since 2005, one of the first clean tech-focused investment banks and research firms in the United States. A polyglot knowing 5 languages, he became an early-stage tech investor before joining Medley Advisors as a director in 2004. Please welcome and join me in welcoming this conversation, Transforming Markets, a New Model for Gigawatts of Solar.
After you.
Oh, after me. Sorry, Tom King, and as he said, Cross River Capital. I think I'm sitting in for Matt Cheney, and I can say without hesitation that you probably will not hear the same thing from me that you would have heard from Matt. But the subject is broadly transforming markets, and it's something that I'm definitely familiar with. I've been doing it my whole career, from working in investment banking and project finance, working on privatizations in Europe and Africa and Asia, to transforming emerging markets, and working into even working to create the conditions so that we could take solar as a distributed asset and use it and apply it in securitizations to bring more capital to the market. So I've done that over the course of the years through banking and private equity and setting up other shops. So in the spirit of transformation and following on from the wonderful discussion from the Blue Planet Foundation, I'm actually doing a lot of focus on Puerto Rico and transforming the Puerto Rican market. And sort of spoilers, we have the panel tomorrow, but just a little bit about what I'm thinking. And in terms of what's going on, you had obviously the horrible storms that have broken down everything in Puerto Rico. But that and the other problems that were endemic in the island beforehand have actually paradoxically created conditions in Puerto Rico where you can see amazing opportunities to transform the markets, to transform the way that business is done. And I really believe that Puerto Rico is going to be the place, perhaps not unlike Hawaii, but I actually think if things happen, they're going to happen in Puerto Rico first and then be applied to the rest of the world. Thanks. And another spoiler for tomorrow, one of the things that perhaps in part inspired by the Blue Planet is I'm working on setting up a foundation called the Fundación Borincana, or the Borincana Foundation. And you'll hear more about that tomorrow, but the basic idea is that there are vast opportunities to move the ball forward, and everybody needs to be paying attention to what's going on in Puerto Rico because of the opportunities and the change that's going to come very quickly and in very different ways than you might see elsewhere. So, with that, I'll say, if anybody is interested in learning more, because we're short on time, by all means, accost me in the hallway, and be happy to start talking about that now rather than sort of after my panel tomorrow.
So I'm a climate capitalist and proud of it. After yesterday, I basically transformed my entire presentation, which is why I need this, because I was affected by what I heard. So I think when I talk to investors, we're an investment bank, so we're where the rubber meets the road. We get stuff funded. We're in the trenches. And I spend my time kind of, controlling the narrative for companies, right? You have to name it properly. We've stated the problem. I'm sick and tired of restating the problem. What are the solutions? How is your company find a solution? What's the problem it solves? How does it solve it? How are you sustainable as a company? And then how are your products and services sustainable? Because if you're not sustainable, it really doesn't matter. They all end up in the proverbial technology cemetery. So with that, I want to really say that we have to retake the, quote, narrative, as everybody keeps saying. It's not a tax. It's not a subsidy. This is a huge wealth creation opportunity. It is job creation, and it is quality of life improvement. And I want to I completely agree with what General Clark said about fear, but we can counter it with hope and action. So let's talk about hope and action, and let's talk about how do we scale these companies. What is the foundation, what are the founding principles of companies that you need to scale? And so, and where can you scale? So smart cities. Cities are a great place. 60% of the population, or some giant number, I keep forgetting, they change every day, are going to be in cities. We have to think about distributed models. We have to think about the multiplier effect, biomimicry. In nature, 1 + 1 + 1 is not 3. It's 5, 6, or 7. We have to do the same thing. So we need new business model innovation to scale a lot faster. We have plenty of technologies. We need new business model innovation. We're not going to come up with the solutions right here now, but that's what we need. So I want to kind of rip up the script a little bit and get participation. How many people in the audience, can you please stand up if you're looking for capital? If you're a company looking for capital, please stand up right now. Okay, now you can sit down. How many people in the audience have capital or know people with capital? Please stand up. Okay, my job's safe for a while.
You guys are going to be really popular.
You're going to be really, but know these people. Look, we're talking about business model innovation. I think there's three main things you got to remember, and it goes back to the basics. Business model innovation, team, the education of the team, and sales. Nobody's talking about sales. In fact, it's funny. I've had about 100 interns over 15 years in clean tech. They come from all these top MBA schools. None of them have a sales curriculum, just a sales class, Sales 101. So I would recommend learn about sales. You're always selling. You got to sell yourself, your company, internally. You have to sell your product, your service. If you're single, you're going out selling yourself at the bars. Learn about sales. And it's not as simple as learn the product, and then you got to really spend time. It's like the painter who walks in, it's like, oh, that's simply just put paint on the wall. No, it's all about the preparation. It's all the hard work. What was the quote you said? About 20 years of probably Jack Nicklaus golfing quote, right?
Well, that was a mixed metaphor, but
right.
Yeah, it's the overnight success in 20 years in the making, right? And that's all the preparation and hard work.
Exactly. So I think we all agree education, and this I'll read because, in French, when you say you're bien éduqué, that means, it doesn't mean just education from school. It's your family. So this is the part I changed, and it's actually getting me a little emotional, but funnily enough. But it's because it's the values your parents teach you. So I'll read some of them just because I don't want to forget them. Respect others, especially if you're a boy, respect girls and women. Work hard, be prepared, do the best all the time. Do not lie. Take responsibility for your actions. Be a role model for others. Keep your room tidy and take care of your things. Turn off the lights when you leave the room. Don't leave the water running when you're brushing your teeth. Eat everything on your plate. Reuse towels. Don't keep the refrigerator open forever while accessing food. Don't these sound a little bit like a lot of the Project Drawdown components? It's kind of funny. We all learned it when we were kids. So good on Paul Hawken for kind of taking that and reminding us.
To our president?
Yeah. So anyway, we're all a
tweet, preferably. Right?
We're all a family here, and my top team is my family unit. That's the base team we operate from, and I think actually it's kind of funny. I came up with an idea. We were talking about it, and I actually surveyed a few people, and I said, these prizes are great. We need funding for the prizes. What can we do? Right? You're going to crack up, but I'm just shaking it up a bit.
I know what's coming.
He knows what's coming. So I think conveying the message that a healthy economy and clean tech produces healthy people, beautiful people. And so why don't we, to fund some of these prizes, let's have the Women of Clean Tech calendar and the Men of Clean Tech calendar. And you could sell them for 20 bucks each. You probably sell 100,000 and fund one of these prizes. And I've already recruited 5 months worth of the Women for Clean Tech calendar in the room today. So it's not just a pipe dream. you want to add anything?
Yeah, no, I was kind of bring it back around. I mean, the transformation of markets. I mean, it's built on the small things. You know, respect. You know, building trust. You know, we tend to think about you know, transformational projects or efforts. You know, you've heard, and you're going to hear a lot more about blockchain tonight and what it can do. You've heard about you know, tax exemptions, clean tax cuts, and clean bonds, and these are great programs. But you know, fundamentally, transformation markets isn't just about the financial markets, and it builds on you know, politics, and you know, I actually got to thank the Blue Planet guys, because they, you know, came up here and before gave us a really good example about how it's hard work and you have to keep at it. But it also involves you know, education, right? I mean, you can build a great widget, but if you don't have great people if people don't want it, if people don't understand why they need it, they're not going to use it. So, you know, transformation is a holistic exercise, and it never really ends. You know, if you accomplish what you want, there's always a next thing, and you have to keep going. And I guess, you know, from my own point of view, I've seen this a little bit in this crowd and a little bit elsewhere, is that people are focused on that one project or that one big thing. And I just want to caution people about the mission accomplished moment, right? You know, the day that you get that legislation passed that you've been, you know, working 5 years on isn't mission accomplished. That's the start. You know, you have to implement it. There are going to be changes. It's not going to go the way you think it's going to go. There are going to be things you don't think about. You know, to truly transform markets, you got to be in them, and you got to stay in them.
Yeah, I would say that also one important thing about sales that most people forget about, when you master what you're trying to scale, the most important thing is listening. Listening intently to understand your customer, the constituents for whom you're trying to scale into and solve, so that you can come up with that innovative business model. If you don't listen, you're just like shoving it down their throat, it's not going to scale. I've seen it over and over. We have it, you know, build it and they will come. It just doesn't work. So I would really focus on the listening. And yeah, how many sports fans are there out here? Because I think building a team is kind of like sports. And you know, at our firm we like to hire vets and athletes, because they're always prepared and they're always focused, and they're team players. But I thought it might be a cool idea. I'm not sure if that's the right time.
Yeah, you know,
like we have extra time.
I was actually going to say that. So integrity, somebody mentioned, is also very important, and we have a real deficit of it these days.
Yeah.
Comment over here. We've been given 30 minutes, but we only had 15. So you should, the clock.
15 minutes left.
Well, did you give us 30 minutes? Because we were only supposed to have 15. That was the thing. You're going to put everyone else back if you give us 30. Now, I'm not proud. I can sit up here and I can talk for another 17 minutes.
Yeah, both of us have financing opportunities
So
we're
we got
happy
2
to talk to you
minutes left.
about.
No, we were supposed to go from
Okay, well, we'll talk
4
for
to
30 minutes.
4:15.
That's fine. That's great. So let's talk about a couple of financing opportunities.
Let's do it.
So what I look for when people say, okay, well, what does your bank look for? What are you guys looking for? So the current market landscape, people are risk averse. Everybody is like return of capital versus return on capital. That's the first thing. Show me how you're not going to lose all my money, right? You know, Buffett's first rule and second rule, et cetera. And so you got to be cognizant of it. And so you have to go in prepared to, you know, literally disarm those investors. You got to take the gun out of their hands, the bullet out of the gun, and separate them and hide them away. And so when I look for companies, I'm looking for companies that have thought this through and are making these 1 + 1 = 5 kind of. So here's an example. There's a company, I can't name the name yet, but I will later if you come to me. It's a company that's doing a combination of distributed agriculture, okay, wind and solar, and education. So it turns out, I didn't know this, but it turns out that schools have some of the biggest landowners in cities. So what do these guys do? They say, okay, let's put distributed agriculture under geodesic domes, and we'll brand this produce that we sell, and we get the land rent-free from the schools, and I can't say what percentage because it's confidential, but a part of it is not for profit that goes to fund STEM education in the schools. And the students that are very aware of where that's coming from, in fact, they interact quite a bit, are always talking to the parents who are buying the produce in the local markets and that brand. So you have this circular sort of 1 + 1 = 3, 4, and 5. You use renewable energy, and it replaces something which I think is absolutely crazy, and I don't remember the stat because I'm getting too old, but some ungodly amount of money, a percentage of GDP in California is to move water from the north to the south, to grow lettuce in the south, to then take that lettuce and distribute it thousands of miles across the United States using refrigerator trucks. I mean, it's like try to figure out the carbon footprint on that. It kind of blows your mind, as opposed to distributed solutions. So for me, that's the kind of thing. They're getting tax-exempt financing, and we're raising them like about $100 million, and that's going to scale across the country. That's something that makes sense for us, as an example. So maybe you want to, I got plenty of them, but go ahead.
No, that's great. And I think that if we got a few more minutes, I might add what I didn't get to say in terms of Puerto Rico, is kind of the justification of why I think it's the place that things are going to happen. Things have torn down, so it's really not a question. Like you heard them talking about Hawaii and how they had to fight against the incumbent, right? There is basically no incumbent. The state is bankrupt, the utility is bankrupt. The system is largely functionally destroyed. They're facing many of the same island problems and others, including vast levels of general poverty. Which means that there's nothing standing in the way. So there's no one, right? There's no one. Well, and which is not to say that there aren't like immense challenges, yeah. But there's no one standing up there going, it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? The truth is, people are behind it. The government, in fact, is trying to be solicited in terms of laws, moving things forward. They're basically saying, it's broke, fix it, anybody. And that opens the door. The other thing you have in Puerto Rico is that you will not find a population that has a more intrinsic understanding of the value of distributed generation, resiliency, and storage, and they all want it. You have a consumer group that is ready for it. So pretty much whatever you want to try, you've got an opportunity there to build it. It's U.S. legal jurisdiction. There may be some federal money, TBD. We'll see how that comes and gets applied. But you've also got a situation that's pretty good on tax. So what does this all translate to? It translates to an opportunity for a sandbox, and Puerto Rico will be that sandbox that allows people to test new technologies, new business practices, new dynamic regulatory transitions, political will, right? Test the foundation of political will that you can apply these practices then worldwide. So it's a very exciting place, and the opportunity is already being extended. The Blue Planet guys, among others, are extending their brand of opportunity and package into Puerto Rico because it is a willing market. It's a great place to extend and practice. There are different technologies, different business practices. Puerto Rico is probably going to be, certainly if I have my way, the first market where you'll see the emergence of a new utility, perhaps hopefully a partner to a revitalized PREPO or the pieces of it, that is the first true distributed utility, basically owning and running assets behind the meter, microgrids, multiple solar storage, potentially other technologies at commercial, industrial. Blockchain, I'm pretty sure, is going to be a part of it. So your infrastructure has got to be ready for that, as you're running, but also to be a partner to the grid. The grid isn't disappearing. It's still going to be there. It's just going to be transformed, and it will operate much more efficiently in the future.
I would say that I completely concur with what Todd said earlier today, Todd Morley. I mean, distributed means more efficient, means you can scale faster, more efficiently, and it's like the blockchain is like the perfect marriage, right? So whoever doesn't know a lot about it, read 1 or 2 books and you know more than 99% of the rest of the world, so you can get really smart and rich fast on it. But aside from that, it's really going to be instrumental. I have other companies I can talk to you about, but we're going to run out of time. I wanted to try one other sort of interactive exercise, right? We got a couple minutes.
Yeah,
Oh, you want to
absolutely.
talk some more?
Well, I was going to say you might want to leave that to the end and walk off in a hail of applause as opposed to.
Oh, okay. Well, we could end early, too. Well, there's another company. I can name the name. It's called Impact PPA. Some people might have heard of it. So they're deploying distributed solar to developing countries. And they're using blockchain. So I'm not up here trying to sell blockchain because I'm a FINRA regulated entity and my compliance doesn't allow me to do that yet. So just for pure, complete disclosure. But I will help them raise capital there's an exemplar in the audience that can help them do the token. So plug to.
They're speaking tonight.
They're speaking tonight. Go listen to them. They're good guys. But in any case, so what are they doing? They're saying, okay, there's going to be people that are never going to get power because the T&D is never going to get to them. And so they're deploying wind and solar with storage and a meter on the house. And everybody in developing countries has phones. And so they're issuing coins that fund they're called MPQ coins, that fund the technology, and then Gen coins where you can pay for the power off of your phone, right? And so now all of it's, and it's all regulated by it's all on the blockchain. So they may not have an ID, they may not have a bank account, but now they can buy power. And so this is we can get into further detail, but that's another example of blockchain that I think is going to be really interesting.
Yeah, actually, I'll follow on that thought, and another shameless plug is Enrique Martinez, a web capitalist, is going to be on the Puerto Rico panel, and his background is in blockchain, and he's doing projects with blockchain. So, again, another shout out. The other is just a quick comment, something I overheard two people earlier talking about, and I hear a lot about blockchain. Isn't blockchain supposed to take out the middleman? Isn't that the whole point? It's not, right? I mean, if you think that way, you're misunderstanding the way people work. What it's trying to do is make the transaction more efficient, right? So the middlemen play valuable roles in our markets, right? They help build trust. They help add expertise where it's needed. The difference is that they can also become a drag on transactions, right? They can also, even when they're being honest brokers, sometimes in time and other things, and that adds cost to the transaction. So really the thing I see about blockchain is you can incorporate potentially even more middlemen and still have a much more efficient, robust transaction because of the way that it's established. So
let's try one last thing. Yeah. Let's see what it feels. 'Cause somebody always told me, people remember how you make them feel, not what you do or say. Let's see if we can see what it feels like to scale. Okay? So let me have one member of the audience, a volunteer. Thank you very much. Stand up. Inigo. So I don't know if you guys have watched the Icelandic soccer team, like when they get ready, or the Kiwis when they get ready before a game, right? Like we're all on a team here. We're getting ready. I want people energized. So what do they? You've seen the games. What do? We get a nice slow clap, but a big clap. Keep going slowly. So that's kind of cool, but let's scale it up. Let's have like 10 more people stand up and do the same thing. Let's feel what it's like to scale. Same time, all at the same time. Everybody up, man. Everybody up. Let's scale it up. Now we're going faster because we're scaling, baby. Faster. Faster. AREDAY. Okay, thank you very much.